And then I went in, and just in between the time that I got cast and I started, they sent me pictures of Snake, and I'm just looking at this guy, and that artwork was so rough and beautiful, and I just got a sense that this guy, especially given the story of the first game where he has essentially retired, moved to Alaska and to try to get away, and of course they come back to bring him in for one last big job, and so I thought, he should be cynical and have a lot of years behind him, and that should have been rough on him. And so by the time I came in, I had a much rougher tone to my voice, and it wasn't until we had done about half a day's recording on the first day that Chris went back and played me my audition for a voice reference, and it wasn't anywhere close, but we were happy with where it had gone, through the work I'd done, so we just left it.
I was watching, actually watched Escape from New York the other day,
and
found that I think the game and the character itself is really heavily influenced off that. Did you look at that film and try and do that, or did you just find out about that after, or?
No, no. A lot of people, say that there are a lot of parallels in the writing of the thing. I think it may have been Mr. Kojima, the creator of the game, Hideo Kojima's idea to say that was such a great character, let's see his wartime exploits, because there's many, many references to that Snake in Metal Gear 2. His code name is Iroquois Pliskin. He gets the eye patch. There's all these parallels that are not terribly well hidden. But it always annoys me when people say, well, are you doing, Kurt Russell's voice from Escape from New York? And the answer is no. I am a massive fan of that movie. It's in my top 10 without question. And I specifically didn't want it to be that, because I knew that there were parallels, and I was like, well, I don't want people to think that I'm just doing Kurt Russell. And so, if you watch Kurt Russell's performance, his voice, his Snake voice is a lot quieter. I mean, it's really just call me Snake, he's almost whispering through the whole thing, and it's just a different thing. What I'm trying to do was just the toughest guy I could muster, because when I want to, I can sort of pitch my voice down and give it some bass like that. And I thought if I roughed it up, that would give him a sense of history and all of that. And it's really just my version of a tough guy voice. I'm not trying to do Clint Eastwood, and I'm not trying to do Kurt Russell or whatever, nor would I ever attempt to compare myself to these two gentlemen. But no, I'm really just trying to do my own thing. I was really, trying to separate it so that they wouldn't get sued. I don't know if I did that great a job.
Did you know about the Priya? Were you a fan of the series beforehand? Because they did 2 Nintendo games, didn't they? Which was Metal Gear 1 and Metal Gear 2. Did you know about them beforehand, or was that something,
I didn't. I didn't know anything about them until I found out about all that stuff after the first game came out. No, I didn't know anything about it. It was just an audition I got called into, and it was at this house where they do casting in Hollywood. I knew the people that ran the casting thing, and so I went in, and as I walked down the hall, I saw all the original artwork, which is all the artwork from it up on the CD case, and I was looking at it, I was like, this looks like they really care about this. Like, this seems like a big title. That was it. I really knew nothing about it until we did it. And then when the game came out, I found out about the whole history of it.
I've spoken to a couple of voice actors in the past. One of them was Kevin Conroy, who played Batman on the animated series.
Oh, yeah, he's great.
One of the things that I was talking to him about was how you record something. And it's like if you're in the same room together, you can almost bounce off the other person. And
totally,
so there's a chemistry there. Did you record Metal Gear Solid like that, or was it all done separately?
No, we try to do, and in fact, every time we sort of put together a new contract for a new game, I try to put in that, that they'll make their best efforts to have the other actors in, because it is much, much better for performance. Sometimes that's not possible. We just did the Metal Gear, the next PlayStation Portable game, and the timing was very difficult to get everybody in. So there were some scenes that I did with other actors and some scenes that I don't, which doesn't necessarily, kill you. Sometimes they can play somebody else's performance and you can act off of that. But for the big games, for Metal Gear 1, 2, 3, and 4, I was really lucky in that being the lead character in the game, you know, people come in for 2 or 3 days, and that's their whole job on the game. Well, me, I'm there for months, and I just get this stream of great actors coming in, and they really get top-notch people. And I really, you know, like I say, try to specify that I want them in the booth so that we can back and forth, because it's just so much better for performance. And so I'm very lucky that way. I get to work with everybody, and it really is, it's pretty great.
Oh, how surprised were you that the game actually became so popular?
Well, I along the way, the people from Konami came in and showed me cutscenes from the game, and which, you know, for the time were pretty incredible. And not only that, but we were really the first game, or at least this is their claim at the time, that took the actual character you were playing with, and they just went straight into the cutscenes. So Snake didn't really have a face; it was more of a polygonal character in the first game. And so when it would cut to a cutscene, it's the same guy you're playing with, and that was pretty revolutionary at the time. So I knew that it was a big game. I knew that it was expensive, and when you're working on something like that, you know it's going to get a big marketing push. Which is a pretty cynical way of looking at things, but I've been in Hollywood for 20 years, so cut me a break. And so when it came out and did well, I wasn't too surprised. I was happy. I mean, a lot of times you can work on something huge and it not work out the way you thought it was going to, and that can be a devastating thing. Fortunately here, people really liked it, and I kind of had a sense that Snake and what I had done would catch on with people. I really felt good about it, and I really felt a lot of love for that character. And when you feel that way, you kind of know people are going to respond. Plus, by the time it came out, I was heavy into production on X-Men, and really my entire life was focused on not screwing up that opportunity.
I mean, you've talked about having a lot of input into the later games. When did you think, as a voice actor, you must kind of have some input as to maybe how you say a line, or can you change a line? When did you realize that, hey, you know, I can get more input into it and change things about that I think are wrong? Did you do that initially in the first game, or was that something you did later on?
Well, I don't know. You may have misread some of the previous quote. I don't have a huge amount of input on any of the games. What I do is, like I say, because I can hear the original Japanese and sort of get the intent of what the line is. If a line is awkwardly written in English, especially as I got better as a screenwriter, you know, if there was some piece of dialogue that just didn't make sense, and a lot of, you know, Japanese to English translation is a difficult business, and you know, there's a lot of nuances that are difficult to put forward, and that's why a lot of Japanese games have this sort of awkward syntax to them. So when I would run into that, I think even on the first game, I'd say, well, what are we really trying to say here? Because the sentence doesn't really make sense. And really, you know, and occasionally they would let me come up with something else, or I'd discuss it with Chris Zimmerman and the producers and just say, well, what if we said this? And I'd come up with something that I think was cooler, better, just, you know, clearer English, and usually they'd let me go with it. Occasionally they'd say, no, that has to be exactly this way because of whatever reason. And that's pretty much the way I've kept it throughout the games. I mean, I really am there as an actor. I'm not there as a screenwriter. So if there's something we can change that'll make it a little clearer, a little cooler, a little better, I'll suggest it, and sometimes they'll go for it, sometimes they won't, but I just basically, once I've made the suggestion and the decisions come down, I just do whatever they tell me to do. Because, you know, having been a producer, having been on the other side of it, you don't want your actors thinking they can dictate the entire story, especially when it's already, you know, there's so much more to it than just my part. You know, there's motion capture actors that are being directed in Japan. There are artists working on rendering the whole thing. There's, you know, writers, game developers, all these people. So, you know, for me to throw a wrench in the works and say, this doesn't work for my character, let's change the whole scene, would be a really expensive and obnoxious thing to do.
No, that's fair enough.